Hello everyone and welcome to Geopolitical Trends. My name is David Oualaalou. So good to be with you as always. Why is the United States is pushing for a diplomatic way to woo Africa? In this video, I'm going to provide you some insights into why that is. And sort of the answer might really surprise you to a degree. But before I'll get into that, I want to express my sincere thanks to the supporters and the members of the channel. And for you, if this is your first time landing on this channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button so you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Let's dive into this topic. So currently, the U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, she's spending about 10 days in Africa. She just begun a 10-day tour of 3 African nations. It's Senegal, South Africa, and Zimbabwe, or Zambia rather. Zambia, that is. So the interesting aspect of it is because the Biden administration wants to set up some sort of an overture to a continent where both China and Russia have made inroads. Because since when the United States cared much about Africa? I mean, let's just face it, it's the reality of it. And this is why Janet Yellen is there to figure out how can we woo Africa. It's not going to work because Africa does not trust the United States. So why is she really there for? So she's visiting, as I mentioned, Senegal, Zambia, and South African countries where the U.S. has been touting investments there in infrastructure because of the metal for electric vehicles or the vehicle batteries and so forth, and renewable energy. Of course, the U.S. is going to say this, but that is not the reason why the U.S. all of a sudden focusing its attention in Africa. And I'm going to tell you why as I move forward in this discussion here. So, Janet Yellen is also expected to discuss raising debt level in Africa after several defaults. Yeah, get this. After several defaults and the prospects of more as an interest rate in the United States is rising. So this is where you start to wonder, why is she there for? So the trip, as the Washington or the White House said, is aimed to show Africa how much the U.S. is a good partner, once there. And it is there for the long haul. Once again, will African leaders trust what America is saying? I'll let you be the judge of that. But here's the thing, after decades of losing the ground to China and the turmoil of what happened with the former president, Donald Trump that is, because the former president threatened to slash aid and roll back military support, which will be a tough sell, or was a tough sell anyway, let alone the big thing that former president said about Africa is considered the S word, whole. I can't say that word here because they don't use these terms here. So you got the idea. So Africa is ever more important at the global level than anybody has anticipated. And why is this? Because with African continent larger than the United States, China, India, Japan, and most of Europe combined. Yeah, let that sink in. So more than half of the world arable land is located in Africa, along with many of the other planets' untapped mineral resources, including strategic minerals. Yeah, that is the reason why Janet Yellen is there to pave the way. So whether it's going to work or not, I can attest to that. And here's the thing, just FYI, by 2100, by the end of this century here, Africa population could double by 2050 to about 2.5 billion people. So, and the continent, Africa that is, based on stat that I looked at, has a young population of about 41% under the age of 15. So it's a vibrant population in whole Africa. So the potentials are there for Africa if it plays its strategic cards the right way. So I did argue in my book, I did once argue here that both Russia and China have long recognized the political, military, and economic importance of Africa. And both countries, Russia and China, that's why they are in Africa. Both countries continue to seize the opportunities to expand their influence across the continent. Do you blame them? It's a strategic move. You take the example of China. China growing economic and security influence in African continent has become a growing concern for the United States. That is again the reason why Janet Yellen is in Africa. Meanwhile, China has overtaken the US as Africa's largest trading partner. And this didn't happen last year or the year before. That was since 2008 or 2009. That's how far back it goes. So, with the bilateral trade, that is more than $254 billion. That was just last year, in 2021. And I will provide you a link to all this. Because that trade between China and Africa went up by about 35% from 2020 to 2021. So you can just see why the United States is playing catch up, So once again, I did argue this in my book here, because speaking of Africa, we should not be surprised to learn how eager Russia is to establish also a foothold in Africa, following in the footsteps of China. So because Russia also had a plan to establish some logistic base in Eritrea, which would give Russia access to the Red Sea. If you get access to the water, you always have an advantage. So to show you how much the United States wants Africa, Yellen trip, Janet Yellen that is, kicks off a whole year high-level U.S. visits to Africa. And those visits will include the president himself, President Biden, Vice President Biden, the trade representative, U.S. trade representative, Catherine Tai, and Commerce Secretary, Gina Raimondo. All of them is going to be going to Africa within a year. And today, on January 28th, in Senegal, Janet Yellen warned Africa against, and I put this in quote, shiny deals that may be opaque and ultimately fail to actually benefit the people. End of quote. It's basically accusing China of dragging its feet on critical debt restructuring in Zambia. But we have to look at the other side of the other face of the coin. U.S. fiscal policy is creating its own drag. African countries have become collateral victims of this year's rate hikes by the United States Federal Reserve, which is aimed at curbing inflation at home here in the U.S., but it's causing havoc in other countries. So, tightening the financial conditions and the appreciating of the U.S. dollar have had dire consequences for most African economies. So, this is exactly what is happening there. So the cost of that service is expected to hit $25 billion next year, according to the World Bank. This is an up from $21.4 billion in 2022. And again, I will provide you a link to all this. In local currency terms, what does it mean? It means that it's risen even faster, increasing the risk of debt distress. That's what it means. The other aspect of this trip is that Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary there, is going to South Africa. Why is he going there? What is going to send a message to South African government because the US is not happy about the upcoming naval drills between South Africa, China, and Russia. Yeah, and I did a video on this. I will release it to you at some point. So that is the reason why it is doing this one here. That is why she's going to South Africa. So here's my conclusion for you. It behooves the United States to prepare the next generation of leaders to be fluent in foreign languages and acquainted with cultures, comfortable with digital world, and deeply committed to understanding the changes within global landscape. Because dealing with the challenges is no easy task. It's not enough to just take a trip. The president takes a trip to Africa and think that Africans are going to bow to the American president. No way. That era is gone. So, and if the United States wants to compete in the 21st century, it needs to get its house in order first before it dictates to other countries in the world what to do. So, I hope you'll find this very informative. And as always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.